Welcome, race fans, to Five Flags Speedway in Pensacola, Florida. We are here live on Pit Stop TV for the 7th round of the Virtual Oval Championship D-Class Series, and it's a super late model at Five Flags. What can you say other than a historic combination with the Snowball Derby? But today we're not going to have 300 laps. It'll be significantly shorter. And it's definitely a smaller field. I don't have anyone in the booth with me, unfortunately, again today. But we do have a Bakor on track, getting some practice in after his qualifying laps. Landed him on pole so far. So Bakor picking up right where he left off last week at South Boston. And I believe everybody has pulled their cars into the pit lane, so I think that's all we'll see of qualifying. A little bit late getting live. I apologize for that, but it's good to get it out of the way, get it rolling, and we're good to go. We should just be waiting on these guys now to go to gridding and start this race. And just as I say that, these guys are getting ready to get rolling here from Five Flags. Your grid today will be a Bakor on pole, Marion Hensel in second place to the outside, Giorgio Ponti in third, Aitor Galindo in fourth, Thomas Nolden in fifth, Michael Krafzik in sixth, Andreas Topp in seventh, John Cyril in eighth, and Steve Clays rounding out the field in ninth place. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we are in Pensacola, Florida for the Pensacola Bay 150. Of course, got to thank the Virtual Oval Championship for bringing us on for this season of their D-Class Series with the iRacing Super Late models. And we are getting ready to roll. You can hear them definitely revving the motors and getting ready to go. Looks like we're just waiting on the 51 of Thomas Nolden to hit the grid, and we should be ready to get rolling. And we may have a special guest coming up in just a moment, and there is Nolden, so we'll get this show on the road. They'll have 2 laps of pacing before we get up to speed for 150 laps from Five Flags Speedway. And as these guys come through turns 3 and 4 for the final time before we get rolling, it is a Bakor waiting on the green flag to start this race. Green flag is out. A Bakor off and out to the outside. Giorgio Ponti in third. Aitor Galindo on the top side, and the wreck in the back already. I'm looking for where exactly it happened. I'll try and get a replay here to show. I think it was Kravzik had an issue on the restart, or the start of the race, that is. So we'll get another look at this. These guys are off and away. Okos-Pecor leading. Marian Hensel in second, Giorgio Ponti in third. But I want to see what happened on the start of the race here. I think Michael Kravzik may have had an issue right from the get-go. So we'll see what happens to the number 22 here in just a moment. Before we go back to live racing. Oh, I think he had an issue with a shift. Definitely had an issue with getting into a gear. John Sayerl with nowhere to go. We saw Sayerl have issues at the end of last week's race at South Boston. Looks like he's having issues again today, unfortunately. Sayerl already with a pretty miserable start. Kravzik also back there in 9th. Okos-Pecor, though, is your leader, and he's starting to catch up to the 22. Marian Hensel in second place. Hasn't lost sight of the number 70 just yet. He's holding pretty good, actually, with the 70 car, considering the fact that if Pecor wins today, he would end up taking his 6th win in a row and his 7th top 2 in a row. He's finished second or first every single race, and really he only finished second the one time in the season opener. And I believe that was Southern National. That was the only time that Okos-Pecor has not won in this series. Thomas Nolden took that race at Southern National. Speaking of Thomas Nolden, he is currently in the 4th position in the number 51. He is trying to keep up with the guys ahead, Giorgio Ponti, Marian Hensel, and Okos-Pecor. It looks like Marian Hensel actually has that car pretty well figured out. He's still on the number 70. And I want to bring us to a certain camera that I actually put on these cars today. See if I can find where it is. At least I thought I had it. There we go. So we've got the camera showing the left front rotor. Oh, this was actually a pretty good addition. You can see just how hot the brake rotors are at the short tracks and the super late models, especially at smaller tracks, but even here at Five Flags, you're using a lot of brake, and you can see it kind of cool down a little bit down the straightaway. It's going to heat up a ton into the corners. You can see when he gets on the brakes pretty much, and has to slow down for the corner, be it turns 1 and 2 or turns 3 and 4. Okos-Pecor, though, still in front. Marian Hensel still in second. Giorgio Ponti doing a really good job of hanging with these guys so far. And if you all will notice, up at the top of your screen on the ticker, it is a new font for the numbers across your screen, be it in the driver info tabs that I can bring up now, or just in the ticker itself. And if you like that font, or if you maybe want it changed, just let me know, and we can get it to exactly how the viewers want it. And I believe we actually have our guest commentator, Bradley Wilson. Do you have a copy?
I got you, bud.
Well, Bradley, it's kind of surprising to have you come up here, but got to thank you for at least helping out a little bit. And,
oh, no problem. My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Sounds good. Well, these guys run in the hosted session, so you don't have to join any league, but you just have to go into the Spectate tab, and it should be available to spectate. And the password, I'll send that to you in just a moment.
All right.
But as these guys round lap 18 of 150, I will say Okos-Pecor continuing his tear of now 5 straight wins, 6 finishes in the top 2. The only time he didn't win this season was at Southern National in the season opener. If he wins today, he makes it 6 straight wins in this series.
That's a pretty dominant streak in a stat-filled sheet, to say the least.
Yeah, Robbie Buckner actually tuned into the Concord race a few weeks back, and we'll just say he was definitely surprised to see Akos McCord take the win by 2 laps over the rest of the field. And he definitely let me know about his surprise in that one, I suppose.
Yeah, it's 2 laps. That's a dominant performance. That's when you know a car's hooked up and the driver's tuned in there.
Yeah, and actually, when we started the season, I totally thought that these guys were on fixed setups, and I was completely wrong. These guys all run open setups, so they build their car before the race, and they come out here and see what they've got. So that would explain kind of the difference in speed with some of these guys, and why Marion Hensel maybe had an off week last week at South Boston, but is now right on the tail of Akos McCord, ready to try and take that lead if anything happens. As 24, now almost 25 laps are in the books. Akos McCord, still leader, got in the wall there actually down the front straightaway, and if he missed the start, John Say Earl and Michael Kravzik had an early issue. It looked like the 22 of Kravzik maybe missed a gear getting up to speed on the initial start of the race. John Say Earl nowhere to go in the Taco Bell number 7. He ran right into the back of him, and they had a bit of a tangle up, I guess, down the front straightaway. They got it back going, though. No caution came out. And for the most part, the cars look decent given what they've been through. I believe, yeah, we are live on each platform, so you can view Pit Stop TV over on YouTube or Twitch. And, of course, on Facebook, where basically our home base of operations are.
Yeah, I'm actually watching through the Facebook broadcast myself, so if you've got any comments or anything, questions, I'll be able to keep up with that on that side of it.
Yeah, definitely. We'll always answer questions, answer any concerns you may have regarding the race or the stream. If the volume isn't right, we can fix that. Aitor Galindo actually is running in the 5th position right now. The number 53 didn't really fire off quite as he probably wanted. He's going fine now, though, just a little off pace and has some right side damage.
Yeah, it looks like the...
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to comment on the damage. It looked like I saw a little right side damage to the door there. The fender actually doesn't look to be misshaped all that bad here at Five Flags. You know, it's not going to be a whole lot of aero as it would be at a bigger track, so he should be alright.
Yeah, he should be okay as far as the aero goes. It's a matter of whether or not he messed up the right front suspension. We had a 3-wide moment just a moment ago, actually. John Sayero was 3 wide with Giorgio Ponti and Steve Clays. Only Steve Clays was 4 positions, so now John Sayero through to 7th place. Steve Clays falls to 8th. And that number 13 Budweiser Black Crown Dodge not really firing off at all like he maybe wants it to. Started 9th, gained a couple of positions by virtue of the issue with the number 7 and the number 22 on the start, and now he's falling back.
Yeah, it looks like a little right front damage there, as you said, and maybe he'll catch a caution here at some point and be able to bring it in and get it worked on. That's the good thing about open setups is you can make changes. You know, if it's not handling right for you, come in and make some changes and hopefully better the car a little.
Yeah, definitely. That is, one of the benefits for the drivers is they can come in and actually work on the car rather than just coming in and trying to figure out the right brake bias to use or something like that. Like you see in your case, the NMNTS Racing Series, where you guys all have the same car to work with. You just have the steering box and the brake bias. So He gives them a couple of other options, but there are, there's drawbacks to everything. So there's, each, I guess, preference when it comes to leagues as far as whether you use open setups or fixed setups.
Yeah, yeah. This is with the fixed setup where you wouldn't be able to make those adjustments. You can always change some spring offset here, and ooh, as I see, just got the wall a little bit more there. But yeah, you can definitely always change some spring offset, and even in these cars, you can change some brake bias. Where if it was a fixed setup, you've kind of got the brake bias you're dealt with.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Later tonight, when the NMNTS Super Series goes to Phoenix International Raceway, they'll only have the steering box to work with, and only pre-race. They can't adjust it once the race starts. They actually, with fixed setups, can't touch the brake bias, which I think is interesting. Personally, I'd like to see it change with these cars, but iRacing sets up the sim, and we don't, probably for a reason.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, you wouldn't think that something as little as just being able to change the brake bias would change the overall handling or satisfaction of your car, but man, it can make a huge difference. But it also, like I said, it like you hit on it, it does keep it to a very level playing field, to say the least.
Although Marion Hensel doesn't need a level playing field today, he is still right on the back end of the Coast Core. You can see the number 70 starting to lengthen the gap a small bit down the straightaways. Looks like he's just rolling through the corners a little better, getting out of the corners much better than the 99. And Marion Hensel, while he is still with the Coast Core and doing what almost no one else has been able to do all season, he is starting to fall back.
Yeah, you can see the 70 car looks like he's getting a little bit better of an arc and a drive off right now. Might have a little bit more forward bite coming out of the corners, where the 99 seems to be following in the tire tracks, but maybe not getting that run off or that forward bite that you would like to see.
Yeah, it really looks like Marion Hensel maybe just can't get to the gas quite when the Coast Core can to power off the corner and get back going when he wants to.
45 green flag laps here. Your tires are starting to settle in too, and you're really for the first time probably being able to see what this car's got with some wear on it. And
yeah, and of course this is the first time, like you said, that they're going this many laps at once and having to do it over the long haul, because you can practice for 90 laps maybe in practice, but you aren't having to push quite like you do in the race, because you don't always have that car in front of you to chase. So you can't always get a feel for exactly what the car is going to do. You can get an idea of at least how it will wear and how it may change over a run, and you can make an adjustment. But a lot of times maybe you'll figure that out right at the end of practice, right when the track is starting to change to how it would be in the race. You throw a quick adjustment in, and you don't really know how that's going to affect the car. So they may or may not exactly have it figured out as far as changing over the long run. It may be how they want it, it may not be how they want it. But Marion Hensel actually is starting to come back to the 70 a little bit, starting to use that bottom line right under the bottom bit of rubber that's been laid down in the corners.
yeah, he's right there around that bottom line, like you said. Looks like he's getting a good drive off there. Car looks very stable for him. Looks like he's got it dialed in to a great satisfaction of driving.
Yeah, for sure. He's certainly not loose. He's not tight. Maybe just not exactly how he wants it. He probably is experiencing some kind of condition that he doesn't really want, be it tight or loose. But he's not to the point where he's pushing up into the wall or he's sliding out of the corners and about to lose it. He's not, I guess, visually showing that he's loose or tight. He's just stable in the corners, and he's trying to make up some time or losing some time or whatever. He's just trying to hang with the Coast Core, not really showing any signs of going away. Giorgio Ponti behind him, though, only a second and a half back. Kind of a cool story to see him hanging with these guys for the first couple of races. He kind of hung out in the back.
Yeah, Ponti there. I've been watching him on the relative there. He's starting to catch these guys down. We'll see if he can't run them down and maybe make this a 3-car battle up front.
Yeah, and right from the start, Giorgio Ponti hung right with Bakor and Hensel and gave them a little bit of a battle. But when Sayerl and Clays started to battle to his outside, he kind of had to back out of it, couldn't exactly run his line, and that definitely impacted the double O from Italy. But one thing about Giorgio Ponti that we've seen the last few weeks is he's really, really good on the long run compared to everybody but maybe Yokos Bakor, and he makes up a ton of spots in just the last third or fourth of the race rather than being up front for the first 2/3 or 3/4.
Yeah, tire preference or tire preservation in these cars, it'll go a long way. And you know, if you can take care of those tires, and you know, maybe not be that fastest guy up front, but if you've got a good long run car and you've saved your tires, you can do some damage in the last half of these races.
Yeah, and I think that's becoming more and more evident in the Super Series races actually on Sunday nights, where you only get the one set of tires, and you know these guys normally go the whole race on this set of tires just because there's normally so few cautions that they don't get a chance to pit. But even in such a I guess a league where there's so much competition as the Super Series on Sunday nights, because you have more drivers and more chances to screw up and lose positions and more chances to battle and lose time. You really have to be careful with how you use those tires up, because those are fixed setups. They might wear the tires a bit more than these guys here with the open setups, and with the higher competition, because there's just more drivers, it's harder to save those tires because you want to get up there, you want to get elbows up pretty much in battle, where you can't really. And these guys, they have more of a chance to kind of make sure their tires wear evenly, or at least wear slower. With the open setups, they can tune the suspension to not wear the tires away super quick. And they can also, get into the long haul for these 150 laps pretty much normally green flag, so they don't wear quite as much, but it's still something to talk about with these super late models. If you wear these tires out real quick, you're going to have issues.
Oh yeah, definitely. These tires are everything in these cars, as I've noticed the more I've ran them. And they your tire fall, if you got tire fall off, especially here at Five Flags, if you abuse that right front, you're gonna lose some time, and you could end up falling back and potentially having a bad night.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're starting to see out of Thomas Nolden and Aitor Galindo. Most notably Thomas Nolden, I'd say, actually, considering he's fallen all the way back to almost the clutches of the 53 if he keeps losing time, I should say. Whereas Thomas Nolden was so good back at Southern National about a month and a half ago. He just pretty much led the whole thing, went out there and gave it his all and really spanked the field. And ever since, he's been having issues. He's been trying to catch up to Akos Bakor, and we saw that at Concord most notably, I think, where he ran through the tires, had to come in because he was starting to hit the wall too much, and he just had an off couple of weeks ever since. I hate criticizing a driver so much on the broadcast, but Thomas Nolden had such a great start, and since has just had so many issues trying to keep up with the rest of the competition here. That I really think he's pushing himself too much. I think if he was to lay back a little bit and just drive it like he knows, he might actually do better.
Yeah, and these, you go to, when you tour like this and you go to so many different tracks and see so many different surfaces, there are nights where you will hit that track and it seems like you're not, and everything can go wrong. And those first wins, they can be a double-edged sword in a sense, as it'll give you a ton of confidence, but at the end you can also find yourself pushing, and I got a win here, I can get a win there, and so you kind of got to gauge it. But I don't know, it looks like he's rolling the bottom. May have a slight push coming out, it looks like. Five Flags, as you know here, the momentum tries to carry you to the wall, and you've really got to be disciplined with the throttle coming off the corners. Oh, just got the wall there down the front stretch.
Yeah, Thomas Nolan, it definitely looks like he has that push you're talking about. Maybe leans on the right side a little too much with that car. You can see it kind of pitch over a little bit, maybe more than he might like, but he's not doing bad. I guess I might have criticized him a little too harshly. He's not doing bad at all. He's losing a little bit of time, and Aitor Galindo is coming up pretty quickly in that number 53.
Yeah, 71 into, like we said, 71 into 150 here. You can see me. He's got a good steady line, and like I said, it takes a lot of throttle discipline there to roll the bottom. You do see the 53 making gap here. Looks like he's got her pretty hooked around the bottom as well. A little damage there, may have got the wall once or twice. We'll see if that plays into anything.
And as we go to his cockpit cam, actually, we're just on board with Galindo. We can see exactly what he sees pretty much now. You can see these cars have a pretty big blind spot, actually, with the A-pillar. And you might see that on a street car sometimes where you have a bit of a blind spot. But normally that's not too big of an issue unless you're really ripping around, I don't know, an on-ramp onto a freeway. You normally don't have issues with sight with the A-pillars, but at least in these cars, since you're going in this oval, you know, making left turns, sometimes you have a bit of a blind spot to the left side. Bradley, you race these cars pretty often, every Sunday night at the very least. Tell me, does that play in sometimes when you're maybe avoiding something or trying to catch up to somebody and you can't see them?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Blind spots, you know, the blind spot of the right side of this car, especially here at Five Flags, when the car's trying to carry you out to the wall and you're doing everything you can to keep it from doing that. There's a lot of times when you can not quite see it out your peripheral vision, and you may kiss the wall, where at some tracks and different cars, you know, you'd have plenty of vision and, you know, be able to see it there.
Yeah, and back to his cockpit cam one more time. You have pretty much that center bit of perfectly unobstructed vision at whatever's ahead. You have the A-pillar to your left side, along with your mirror taking up a good portion of what you see, not to mention all the roll bars to the right, and the fact that you're seated on the left and you can't see the right side quite as well. And you know, being a sim, if you have the Oculus Rift, or if you have 3 monitors like I believe you do now, Bradley, it helps a little bit, but it's not always exactly what you need. Sometimes you're still going to have issues with getting up into somebody to your outside, or not seeing something somewhere and just running into something or somebody.
Oh yeah, with the triples, I noticed last week with the triples, we were at the, you know, as you know and as you covered, we were at the bull ring at Vegas, and even with the triples, you know, if you get a car to your outside and it's a little ways back or not right up there on the fender, and you're heading into a corner, doors up with it, you've got to be real careful to you know, not make contact there. And same thing with these cars can almost be said with the left front roll bar and the big mirror they have on them. You because they've got that big mirror to see out the back, and at the same time, if you're going into a corner and there's a wreck to the inside of the track, you may miss that. So it's definitely head on a swivel in these cars.
Definitely, and a bit of a change of subject from the obstructed vision. We have the 53 now right on the bumper of Thomas Nolden, going through turns 1 and 2 here at Five Flags. And Thomas Nolden is actually catching up to John Zairoli. Could possibly use that number 7 as a pick to buy him some time. But Galindo has definitely driven up to Nolden, and I don't think this battle will last very long. It looks like the 51 is having some tire wear issues.
Yeah, definitely starting to see some tire fall off. You can see the brakes starting to glow a little bit. He's maybe using them in the corner to you know, adjust to a mishandling car. So tires and brakes are definitely coming into play here. 53 gonna look low, not get him into 3 this time. Tuck back in. We'll see what this lap traffic plays off.
Yeah, I definitely know if I was Thomas Nolden right here, I would try and use John Cyril to my advantage. And then Andreas Top, too. I would try and use these two as a couple of picks to try and buy myself some time at the very least with Aitor Galindo, because you never know, there could be a caution that comes out, and if you buy yourself 10, 20 laps, that can get you quite a distance. And, you know, if a caution comes out, you can come in, get tires, maybe, actually Thomas Holden doesn't have to make any repairs, but make a change in the car to be faster on the short run, then power off to the finish. You saw him get by the lap traffic there, Aitor Galindo, no issue getting by either, so that's not going to work out for him, but it at least would have been a good attempt to try and use him as a pick.
Yeah, definitely. And, at the same time, if you're that lead car and you're looking for a pick, if you're that car that's, you know, the follow car and trying to pick that position off, this clear track right here that they've now got, you know, that's something you like to see too.
Definitely, and what that lap traffic did do to those two cars, the 51 of Nolden and the 53 of Galindo, is slow them down a little bit, and just enough to bring a Coast McCord pretty much into the picture to put them a lap down So that could also play into their battle for the 4th position. Of course, McCord is the leader, and these guys generally do yield to the leader pretty well. Being from across the pond, it's kind of the cultures. Sometimes in America, these drivers normally put up more of a fight just to try and hang on to that lap. But what I've noticed, especially in this series, is they're much more submissive in that they try and get behind the leader first, then battle afterwards. So it's just a couple of different cultures. You race with drivers from all across the world when it comes to iRacing, so there's all kinds of different, I guess, philosophies as far as how you should do it.
Oh yeah, with the iRacing service, like you said, you're racing with guys all across the world, and it is nice to see different cultures. As you hit on, the overseas culture, if you're road racing or whatnot, if you get the leader and you're going to, and he's got the inside of the bottom, or even just a car for position, it is a lot of custom to, give up and submit that bottom line and go ahead and let him go without too much of a fight there.
Definitely, and as we actually now roll past lap 94 on to lap 95, this race already 2/3 just about in the books, and Brad, this is one of the nice things about this series. These races are normally pretty quick. I believe last week's race from South Boston was only about 51 minutes, whereas we went later on to the bull ring, and that ended up being a couple of hours. Just it's nice. It's nice to bang these races out, and they're certainly not necessarily boring. I would say they might have a couple of less moments of excitement, but they are shorter. They end up being shorter because they run quicker, and there's just fewer cars. So there's still really good battles that we see, like with the 51 and the 53, but maybe just fewer cautions, fewer wrecks.
Oh yeah, definitely, and that's kind of where you get into the each his own. A lot of people like to see a lot of green flag runs. Um, you know, it's nice to be able to see a short track where we've got a lot of green flag runs. As to where, like you said, when you run a lot of tracks, a lot of cars on a short track, sometimes you'll see everybody jammed up, and it's just short track racing. No matter how you cut it, there's going to be some door-to-door action, and occasionally tempers and fenders will get roughed up.
For sure. And, I mentioned that before in New Smyrna. I should have mentioned it last week at the Bull Ring. It's just short track racing. When you put 26 to 30 cars on one little track that's maybe just over a third of a mile long, like in Las Vegas with the Bull Ring, bad things can happen, and they certainly do pretty quickly. We saw that last week at the Bull Ring. Tonight, we're going to Phoenix, a bit bigger of a track, so we might not see quite as many issues trying to get up to speed on those restarts. Still going to be very, very exciting, so definitely tune in tonight to Pit Stop TV for the NMNTS Super Series from Phoenix. And again, next week, we'll be back on Sunday morning with the 8th and penultimate race of the Virtual Oval Championship D-Class Series. Of course, McCord will look to continue his running streak of now almost 6 races. One tonight, if he makes it happen. He's led 102 of 103 laps so far. And when we come around to complete 103, we'll have led that.
Yeah, it's definitely a dominant performance tonight. Some would call maybe walking the dog. 2-second lead here coming out of that corner. I mean, it looks like it's on a rail. He may have him covered here. We'll have to see.
Yeah, and what we did miss was Giorgio Ponti actually got by the 99 of Marion Head. So we missed that a few moments ago, actually. I believe about 5-10 minutes, somewhere in there when we were talking about the 51 and the 53. But the 00 worked on by the number 99. Now he is 2.3 seconds behind Akos Bakor, trying not to lose more time in case an opportunity opens up. But Giorgio Ponti just isn't quite with that number 70. But this definitely proves my point where Giorgio Ponti is a guy to look out for in the last third of the race, maybe the last quarter. He just has a really good car on these long runs.
Yeah, I've been watching him here as the laps click off and you get later into this race, and definitely that car, if you notice the car, the right side's clean. Looks like there's been no contact with the wall or another car, and sometimes if you keep it clean, keep the nose clean, and you can take care of them tires. It may just be enough.
Yeah, sometimes just keeping a clean car is enough to go out there, finish second or third place. You even see that in the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday races, where if you just keep the truck or the car clean and run all the laps, you'll probably get a decent finish. I noticed that a lot last season when I raced with you guys at places like Myrtle Beach, places like Bristol, places like Martinsville. If you just keep a clean truck, clean car, whatever it may be, and try and run all the laps, you'll probably get a pretty decent finish, at least top 15, if not top 10.
Yeah, and definitely keeping the nose clean. It's one thing to come out here and set a good car up and have a good game plan. It's another to have a good racing IQ and really know when to push the car, when to not push the car. And if you can do that and do it all successfully, because things can happen so fast at these short tracks, and you can go from having a winning car to be in trouble in a hurry. So a lot of the racing IQ and taking care of your equipment, watching the inertia happen, it definitely pay off dividends for you.
Most certainly. I mean, if you have a fast car, you can go out there and maybe turn a fast lap and qualify, maybe set it on pole. But if immediately you end up pushing a little too hard, put yourself in the wall, maybe lose some time to the cars behind you that started second, third, maybe even fourth, fifth, that aren't maybe as quick, they will certainly pounce on that opportunity to get by you. And if you start pushing really hard to get by them, you could have a lot more issues, possibly cause a wreck, tear your car up, if not theirs. So it's a win-win situation, I guess, to be fast, because, or I guess it can be a double-edged sword. That would actually be a better analogy. I don't know why I said win-win. But it can be a double-edged sword to be fast, like you mentioned, Bradley, where you can be fast all you want, but you have to be able to know how to put that car in the front and keep it in the front the right way.
Oh yeah, definitely. And there's going to be times where you may run into things out of your control. I think back to an ARCA race last year in the NMNTS series when I can't remember where we're at, but it was a short track ARCA Sunday night, and Tyler Justice had the field covered and simply got in a position where a lap car come off the wall, clipped him, and as you know, we run no fast repairs in that series, so he got on the side and got into the wall, and like I said, that's on these tracks. Before you know it, your fast car and your good night can definitely change in a hurry.
Well, we even saw that in the NMNTS SimSpec series a couple of weeks ago at Atlanta. He got into a little bit of trouble, had the field pretty much covered until then, and was at least in the battle if he didn't have the field covered. Ended up getting damaged, ended up with a pretty damaged truck, actually. Fell way to the back, couldn't make anything happen. We even saw that again at Atlanta the next day, actually, in the Cup Series. He ran into issues. Couldn't keep the car up front because he ended up with a bunch of damage after a small run-in with Craig Lerman. So 2 nights in a row, he had a really fast car or truck, whatever it may have been, had the field almost covered or had it plenty covered as in the Cup Series, and just one little thing happened. All of a sudden, he had a completely wrecked race car and couldn't keep up, couldn't follow through for that win.
Oh yeah, definitely. And as you look at the double O car here, like I said, it's clean. You can tell he's taking care of it, and that if you run, you may not get that win. You might get that win every time out, or you may go a whole season without a win. But you think about it, you go to looking at Gordon Larson on Tuesday nights last year. No win, but if you can run up front, run consistent, and use that racing IQ and put yourself in those positions, and good things are bound to happen.
Yeah, definitely. And, we even saw it with Terry Mason, actually, last year on Sunday nights in the ARCA series that you brought up just a moment ago. He didn't have any wins, didn't really run necessarily spectacularly all season, but he was Mr. Consistent. He ran, if not in the front, quietly in the top 10 or the top 12, something like that, and just gained points, continuously chipped away at it. He may not have always been the points leader, especially not right from the start, but once you had guys maybe miss a couple of races or getting a couple of big wrecks a couple of weekends, he was suddenly the points leader, and he carried it all the way through November into South Boston, where he clinched it, went into Texas, actually took home the championship over Jason Alexander and Derek Robinson. And, those three drivers, even just as a whole, no matter who would have won it, would have been a good story. Just to have those three in the top 10, but for Terry Mason to win it, I think was really, really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, consistency is what's gonna more than not pay off. If you can be consistent, keep the nose clean, you're your good things are gonna happen to you.
Yeah, I mean that's really my go-to, I guess, usage, or I guess my go-to example. That's a better way to put that. It's still early on a Sunday morning. Believe me, it's not the easiest thing to do, to wake up and immediately call one of these races. But my go-to example of playing Mr. Consistent is Terry Mason, and we bring it up every Sunday night pretty much. It's an ongoing story where he might not go out there and spank the field in qualifying or in practice or anything else. It might qualify last, might practice last, might have a totally off car for the first 90% of the race. Then all of a sudden there's this number 75 and he's in the top 10, maybe the top 5, and he's suddenly battling almost for a win, and you just have no clue where he came from.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the things I know when I'm in a field. I always keep my eye on. Terry does an extremely good job of keeping that nose clean. And I mean, there's still going to be incidents when you're piling them up on a short track and running 20, 30 cars on a short track. Anything can happen, but you can, unlike a plate track or something like that, you can kind of dictate how your race goes to an extent. And it's all about being there, and when the opportunity does arise, being able to seize it and take full advantage of it.
Yeah, exactly. You got to, like you just said, seize the opportunity, and that's a lot easier to do on a short track where a hole may open itself up once every couple of laps, compared to a plate track where, with the restrictor plates and those really fast cars going 200 miles an hour on a 2.6 or 2.5 mile super speedway, you can either run up in the front where everybody's doing the same speed, getting runs here and there constantly throughout a lap and inches away from each other, or you can choose to fall back, then maybe try and rely on that draft to get you back up to the front. But if any one thing in either of those situations goes wrong, your race can suddenly be over, or at least if you hit the wall, you get in a wreck on a short track, you can keep going. You might not always be the fastest, but you can at least keep going. We saw that actually last week with the 75 of Terry Mason. He got in a couple of big wrecks. He kept it going. He never gave up, and he ended up finishing, I think, in the top 10, if not the top 5.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Keep your head down, keep digging, and to win the thing. I always say to win the thing, you've got to be there at the end to win it. And definitely, you keep your head down, keep digging, and you put yourself in the top 10 at these kind of tracks, and anything can happen in the last 10 laps of a race, as you see. I mean, anything can really happen in the last lap of a race. You go back to last Sunday night's race, so definitely got to be there and pounce.
Yeah, that's a great thing to bring up. Jake Watson had that race in the bag, was literally a third of a mile from winning that race last week at the Bull Ring. Something happened out of turn 2. There was a massive wreck. He went high. Andrew Rutten behind him, his teammate, went low. And Andrew Rutten just ended up coming out of turn 4, clearing the smoke as the victor. And that was that. There really wasn't anything else to say about it. I mean, it was just crazy what happened. Jake Watson literally was a third of a mile from victory, and just a split-second thing with an incident on the back straightaway led to him totally losing the race. Andrew Rutten powered away.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like George Ponte's gonna, or don't know why I said George. Ponte there, he's gonna put the 7 car another lap down there. 7 car looks like he may got a little damage there on the front end. May not also be having the night he would like to have, but you're definitely at this point in the time, even if you may not be having the night you want to have, you're definitely just trying to run the laps out and see the finish there.
Yeah, and we're now under 10 laps to go. This race really has just whizzed by. It's only been about 50 minutes that we've been live. And that's kind of the name of the game here. You have to be fast for all 150 laps. You can't do what Terry Mason does sometimes, and you know, if he's having an off night, maybe isn't in the front all race, where sometimes he might be in the top 15, top 10 all night long, just there. But sometimes he just has an off night, isn't up there. He can run 20th for the first 100 or 99 of 100 laps. Suddenly on the last lap, something happens. He's in the top 7, top 5. You can't do that here. Very often, you won't have a caution at all, or if you do, it's going to be one caution, probably midway through the race. And while that does help, it's not going to be the help you need if you're having an off night right from the start. And we saw that with John Cyril, Michael Krafzik in the 22. Krafzik just missed a shift on the start. I think ended up in the wrong gear for half a second. I've had the same issues a million times with my Logitech shifter. And kind of funny, in the 22, just like I normally would be, had an issue on the start. John Cyril nowhere to go, piled right into the back of him. They had a bit of a wreck into turn 1. There was no caution. They had an issue, and there's no way to recover from that. There's just no cautions after that. You know, it's really tough when you come into a race like this. You just have no way to recover.
Yeah, it'll definitely make for a long night too. You lap one and you feel like you got the cards stacked against you already in a 150 lap race. That can make for a long night.
Definitely, and this actually, I was watching the 70 car, Vicos Bacor, and it brought me right to this battle with the 51 and 53. Thomas Nolden has somehow, for 70, 80 some odd laps, hung on to that position just ahead of Aitor Galindo. He did a great job, actually, I think, of using the lapped cars and then the lead car, Vicos Bacor, to his advantage to try and make Galindo kind of wait to make that move on 4th place. Ended up running the tires off. The 53 never had a chance to make a move, and now Thomas Nolden will finish probably 4th position unless something big happens in the last half mile, as we now get the white flag of Coast Bacor, 1 lap to go to win.
Yeah, 70's been set sail here. 51 looks to be running the bottom. And right where you'd want to be. The road looks like the bottom of the tracks took rubber pretty well. When you run 150 green flag laps, you know, you'll see a lot of rubber in the bottom, and so we'll see if he can't hold him off here.
Well, we just got the checkered flag. Coast Bacor came across the line, took his 6th victory in a row in the Virtual Oval Championship D-Class Series. That's going to make 7 finishes in the top 2. Again, the only place where he didn't win so far this season was Southern National, and we've seen that burn out quite a bit from him, actually, where he tries to get it going, ends up hitting the wall, and now he'll get it going in a proper donut. We'll see. I'm actually curious of exactly what his average finish is, so I'm going to do this real quick. We're going to add these up, divide them by 7. The guy's average finish after 7 races on short tracks and super late models, anything could have happened, as we've mentioned all night, is 1.1.
That's a stat there. When you can run this many races into a season and your average finish is 1.1, I'd say you could hang a hat on that success.
Oh, definitely. I think that, you know, is when you've got it in the bag. Only 2 races left in this series, and I don't think anyone's going to have any shot of touching him. It's just incredible to me the runs he can put on.
Yeah, definitely that, and you know, a lot of that, you know, you can't take away from the driver, but a lot of that is, you know, in these open setups especially, it's having the knowledge and the know-to of what to do to make your car better, and then going out and having a plan and executing it to perfection.
For sure. Well, as we leave Five Flags Speedway in Pensacola, Florida for the Pensacola Bay 150, I quickly want to mention the points battle. Coast Bacor pretty much has it locked up at this point. As long as he does decently in the next 2 races, he can still lose the championship by all means, but he did have a 28-point lead over Thomas Nolden coming into tonight at Five Flags. That's only going to go up with this win and Thomas Nolden finishing in 4th. Good job, though, by Nolden to hang on to 4th, because had he fallen to 5th, he would have gained less points and possibly lost a spot to Giorgio Ponti, who came into this race 3rd in points, just 12 points behind Thomas Nolden. So even if Giorgio Ponti doesn't pass him tonight, I think he certainly has a pretty good chance in these next 2 races to get by him. And actually, we'll go back to their schedule. We are at New Smyrna next week, followed by Thompson. So a couple of really tough tracks coming up.
Yeah, definitely. New Smyrna, I like to say New Smyrna to me is almost kind of like the Bank Martinsville. It's real bottom dominant. You can get a lot of arc with the banking there, and I've always took a liking to that place. It's a real fun place to race.
Definitely, and as long as you're not Robbie Buckner, you probably have a decent chance of not hitting everything on the track, including the light poles. That's an ongoing joke. I wish we had Robbie here so we could pick on him a little bit more, but we will go ahead and take this opportunity to close down the show. But first, we're going to go through the results. And Brad, I'm not sure if you're live or not with us, but I'll just go ahead and go through all 9 cars that we had show up. We had a Coast Pacor lead all 150 laps here from 5 Flags, and a continuous streak of now 6 races won in a row. Giorgio Ponti finishes second, Marion Hensel in third. Thomas Nolden, first car lap down, was actually 2 laps down at the end in the number 51. Heitor Galindo comes home in fifth, just behind Nolden. Michael Kravzik hangs on for sixth, 4 laps down. Actually, a really good, really good comeback considering the start of the race for him. Andreas Top ends up coming home in seventh in the number 10, with John Cyril in eighth and Steve Clays in ninth.
Yeah, 10 definitely a good comeback by the 22 car there. First lap incident, and being able to put some positive together. I know 4 laps down is probably not where you want to be, but you bring her home just outside the top 5 and still running. And definitely a good rally.
Yeah, there's nothing to really be ashamed about there, considering he was able to bring it back for 6, salvage some points out of it, and it's hard to necessarily do better than a top 10, I guess, because it's hard, or maybe do worse than a top 5. There's not a lot of cars in this series. What I'm trying to get at, so he doesn't really have a whole lot of a chance to finish outside the top 5 or finish, any higher than maybe. Finish inside the top 5, or I don't know. I had something going in my head, Brad. I totally lost it. Anyways, I will say it's still a good comeback for the 22. He had something go horribly wrong in the start. Not sure what happened. I can only assume maybe he has a Logitech shifter like I do. It didn't go into gear. I have that issue all the time, literally going from second to third. It just doesn't go in. And I think you can testify to that. Daytona, icebreaker, might have happened.
Yeah, oh yeah, 10-4. And like I said, you miss a shift or something happens like that to you off the stars, definitely can make for a long race, especially if you're going to run 150 laps and more than likely not see a caution. So, that's one of them keep your head down type deals and keep digging and see where you can end up out of it.
Definitely, and we'll see next week if maybe the possibility for a caution ramps up at New Smyrna. It's certainly a possibility given just the nature of that speedway. It's really small, really tight. Like I said, more of a banked Martinsville, if anything. So we'll see what happens at New Smyrna. The finale at Thompson is really interesting to me because that's kind of a track that I wouldn't normally want to put a super late model on. It's kind of a bit of a scary thought to me to race for 150 laps at Thompson with a super late model, but we'll see how these guys do in a couple of weeks when they close out their season. Brad, thanks for joining me in the booth. This has been Pit Stop TV. We'll catch you later tonight with coverage of the NMNTS Super Series from, gosh, I forgot it already, Phoenix International Raceway.
Yeah, 10-4. Thanks for having me up here. It's been a lot of fun to come watch a race on this Sunday morning with everybody, and hope you enjoyed it, and hope I didn't butcher things up too bad for you.
No, you did fine. I think I messed up more than you did. Believe me, after running the 12 hours of Sebring yesterday and trying to work on a couple of things with the overlay last night, this was an interesting one. So, apologize for any mistakes I did make. I certainly did my best, but it's certainly been a long couple of, long day yesterday and then long night overnight. So, I do apologize, but we'll get back into things later tonight. Again, from the Phoenix International Raceway, we'll see you there. This has been Pit Stop TV.